You're watching CN2 News. Two Chester County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's R.E.A.L.L. Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college or to start a career or to go into the military.
Create and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly, discuss literature, and express their support for the education system. Recently, the owners were featured for Amazon's #1 best-selling book entitled Women Who Lead in Education.
And so we are super, super excited because we're amongst a family of women leaders who are absolutely extraordinary. So it's an honor to have been asked to participate. And then even more of an honor now that the book has gone on sale and it became a #1 bestseller. So you don't have to be a school leader to have leadership qualities.
Collectively, both Tammy Taylor, principal of Great Falls Elementary, and Dr. Sheikah Houston, principal of Chester Middle School, have 40 years of service in education. They have learned the need in their community, and they plan to
serve all children in all communities. And one of the things that we enlighten people about in our professional development with literacy is that sometimes it's hard for children to connect to text because they don't see themselves in text. Providing that culturally relevant literature for students, and that's not just African American students, that's all students. Every student at every school should be able to see themselves in a book, in a text, to be able to connect with it.
Surviving pandemic education together in Chester, R.E.A.L.L. Jackson, CN2 News.
Again, their goal is to help connect educators, parents, community members, and authors each week to help better navigate the pandemic. To learn more.
Great Saturday, everyone. Welcome to the R.E.A.L.L. Academy. I am Dr. Sheikah Houston and my trustmate here in education, Dr. Tammy Taylor. We are bringing you the R.E.A.L.L. Academy based on the work that we have done in our respective schools to improve the schools. At my school, which was a middle school, we improved 2 report card grade levels in 1 year after being in state-sanctioned school improvement. And at Tammy's school, they improved 3 report card grade levels at the elementary level in 1 year. And we're still waiting. Hopefully, maybe Monday, we might hear the new, not even Monday?
Not even Monday.
Oh, wow. We're waiting for the new list that they do every 3 years to be released. So hopefully that'll be coming soon. But good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Sheikah, and good morning, everybody. We're excited to be with you guys this morning.
Definitely. And as you can see, Tammy is on location. She's at Myrtle Beach. And what is the meeting that y'all are doing, Tammy?
I am at the SKICA Early Childhood Conference down here at Myrtle Beach, which has actually been a really amazing conference where we have had some phenomenal people who've come in to pour into childcare providers and educators about those things that are best for the earliest learners. And so it's been treacherous because it's a very long day conference, but it's been a really good experience. And I'm heading over there as soon as we wrap this up.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's good that it's a great conference, and even that they've put early childhood providers together with educators. I think that's great. And you also received your new book that you're featured in. Tell
I
us.
sure did. It's
Yep.
this one is Africana Melanated Womanism in it together, where it has the true focus on the collectivity and inclusiveness of the paradigm. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. So that takes us to our topic. We have, over the past few weeks, gone through the paradigm of Africana Womanism. And if you're not familiar with that, with what that is, Tammy did a great deal of her research based around the Africana Womanism paradigm. And we have connected it to the salvation of the Africana child. Um, Students that are African American and African, because it also includes Latino and everything that is in the African diaspora, just are not where we would desire for them to be in education settings. A lot of it is not because, what we normally hear about the achievement gap. Principal Kafele has taught us about the opportunity gap, and Africana Womanism puts another um, lens to that as well, as far as making sure that we're actually serving the needs of every student at every school. So, do you want to kind of give an overview, Tammy?
Sure, because today we're going to be talking about the male female compatibility. And it's kind of one of those things, and I'm taking this straight from the chapter that I had in this book, actually. But it's where Dr. Hudson Weems has outlined 15 positive, negative elements of male female relationships that align in the paradigm to actually solidify the notion that we are really truly in this together. And what her theory is, if we give attention to these particular, she calls them positive negative elements, what we end up with is we end up with strength for our communities. And she could, because like it's going to be a lot of milling about. If you want to just go on with the
Hmm.
negative and positive elements, I'll chime in as
Okay.
necessary so that we could kind of talk about what those actually mean for the paradigm.
Okay. And one of the biggest differences between the Africana womanism paradigm and feminism is that, and that we don't, we're not in a debate, or we're not against anyone who identifies that way. But the difference is that one is a little bit more exclusionary to males. And then for Africana womanism, it definitely includes the male, because we as a people have to be in this together in order to save our children, our community, and get to where we would like to be. So, this male compatibility part is a very important part of it. And that first negative, positive, negative tenet is love and contempt. Do you want me to stop at each one?
We can. I was just going to say that when what she describes, and I think it's really powerful when you think about these elements in a relationship, it's very easy to see. And one thing that she could say that's really important for us to continue to make sure that we focus on, as far as the paradigm goes, is that males and females in Africana womanism are in the liberation struggle together. We are not against one another. And as she said, this isn't a debate about whether Africana womanism over feminism, because what you connect with is what you connect with. But what we need to understand as a paradigm, that there are some things that match your style of researching, or your personal philosophies about how a community should function. And Africana womanism just provides that foundation for us with the work that we truly want to do in our communities, because we are in this struggle together. And one of the things that she points out, and this isn't actually in the book, but this was in an interview that I had with her, she talked about how it's sometimes if you just start to observe when you're in the company of people, you can kind of see, and these things become very apparent with how those elements operate within relationships. And sometimes when you're with a couple and you're looking at the interactions, and the husband's looking adoringly at his wife, and he's just hanging on her every word, and likewise for her, that indicates that there is a loving relationship there. Like I love you, you love me, we have respect for one another. Like you hear Principal Kafele every week when he comes on, he says the queen is in the house,
Yes,
because that's how he honors Mrs. Kafele.
that's
This
right.
is what we're talking about.
Hmm.
But then you see sometimes couples interacting, and she's rolling her eyes like he's saying something, and she's kind of like, oh. Or he said something and she's like, that's because there may have been a fight before, or it may be a contemptuous relationship. And that is what Hudson Weems describes as the love contempt relationship element. Because, again, if that's what is being seen, then that's something that the couple can know that needs to be worked on for that
Hmm.
particular element.
That's exactly right. And this is just in time. I should have mentioned it at the beginning for Black History Month. So we're glad that this has gone over into Black History Month. And my shirt, my ancestors are my biggest flex, is one of my Black History a month shirts, and I wear it for Juneteenth too. But just like Tammy said, both of those things in a relationship, children need to see love modeled, and they also need to see healthy conflict, because conflicts are a part of reality. So, the key word there is healthy. So the next one is friendship and rivalry.
This is an interesting one because in the friendship and rivalry, you don't often think about couples being rivals to one another. But
Mhm,
what she says, and what she said in that interview, was you watch the dynamics of a couple sometimes, and you'll see some couples who support one another, and whatever, if this is what you want, go for it. When I was going to my undergraduate degree, my husband was the one who said, I'm working in corporate banking, making most of the money. He said,
mhm,
you're going to quit that job and go back to school like I promised your mom you would. And I was looking like, seriously, dude, like, how are we going to live?
mhm,
But he supported every decision that I made. I was an accounting major in my third year and changed my mind. Like, I don't think this is what I'm supposed to do. I think I'm supposed to go and teach. He supported that.
mhm,
And likewise, I've tried to support everything that he does. We are not rivals to one another. And when you know that this is my friend, he's my best friend, and you
mhm,
see couples who are operating in that arena, like you were friends above other things, and I'm not in competition with him. We're
mhm,
in this thing together, and so when you see that, yeah, there's a couple who truly has embraced the fact that they are friends and
mhm.
support one another.
Definitely. And that friendship and support that matters as well. And something else that children definitely need to see modeled, and not that competitive, spirited type of thing with the rivalry as well, like you stated. Number three is trust and distrust.
And that's pretty self-explanatory. You need a relationship that's based on trust. Like you
Mhm,
can't do the work that you need to get done if you are battling who can trust you to be out of the sight of the other spouse. Like if you can't be trusted to go out of town or to
mhm.
do what you need to do,
Right.
there's always going to be it'll go back to that contempt, and
Mhm,
that uneasiness that comes with feeling like, oh, I can't trust this person. And it shows up in our interactions.
Right. And my sister has a saying, take my name out the hat. If I got to be running behind you every 5 minutes, don't nobody got time for that. Take my name out the hat. Um, the next one is fidelity and infidelity.
Which kind of goes back to what Nick is about to say. And I'm with her. Remove my name from that, because who has time for that? Like, the marriage is based on a covenant, and the covenant is to be faithful to one another. Now, we're not here to judge whether that happens or doesn't happen, or what happens when it doesn't, because
Mhm.
that's a whole nother thing that you can go to the Bible for. But
Right.
what we're talking about is a relationship, a healthy one, like Sheikah was saying before, that's built on the fact that we are in this together, and it's us.
Right.
We don't have anybody else pulled into what we're doing.
Mhm.
We're doing this for us and for our family and for overall, collectively, the Africana community.
Right. And Dr. Manny, I think his last name is Scott, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of the freedom writers that was on with Principal Kafele that did the interview. I thought it was really profound when he said that he wanted to change the trajectory of men in his family and be the first man that was faithful to his wife, because he had not seen that modeled before. So, just and then I think Principal Kafele even last week talked about, just this whole thing that's happening with the police brutality that was with Black officers and how we see one another, and that he can't refer to queens as the B word, so just that what you're projecting out and modeling for children, they pick up on things in songs and movies. So you have to be cognizant of not just what you're doing around children, but what they're taking in from different platforms and different media messages to make sure that it aligns with what you want them to learn and be and become.
And I'll say this with that modeling, because there is an article, and it's very powerful, that I ran across when I was doing some of my research, because the research about the Black woman goes both ways. And it was this young guy. He wasn't that young anymore. I mean, he was, I guess, maybe 30s or so. And he was talking about how when he grew up as a teenager, his mother was considered the town, um, whatever word, I won't use his word because I don't use
Right,
his words, but
right.
and
Some a person that people were very familiar with.
it hurt him so much, because he was there with her, and
Mhm,
he saw these different guys who were
mhm,
married coming in and
mhm,
out, and then out in the community with their wives. And it was just very it made him so angry,
mhm,
because his mom was being used the way that she was being used, and she was being talked about within the community, and eventually ended up committing suicide, because or having death by suicide. So everybody knows that I can be politically correct, because one of the gentlemen had promised that he was going to leave his wife, and he was a prominent person in that community. And he came over one night and was very intoxicated, I think, and really went at her verbally about how dare she think that that could ever happen. And when he left, later in that night, she took her life. And he had to struggle through that and try to rise above what he had seen. And he vowed, though, and that was his thing, that he would never be one of those guys. But his vow was, I'll never marry. I'm not going to marry because I'll never be that person.
Wow.
But the article was just one of those that ended very happily because he did find a wife. And, the Bible says that was what he said. He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And
Right.
his good thing he was committed to, and was committed to never hurting her the
Hmm.
way that he had seen his mother downtrodden.
Wow. That's a powerful story, and one that, you know, we've probably heard something like it similarly probably too many times. The next one is truth and deception, number 5.
Do you think we have time, or are we going to be in Principal Kafele's way? Like, is our time up?
We got 5 more minutes.
Okay. So with truth and deceit is the same thing that we were talking about before with the trust and distrust. Is pretty much, it speaks for itself, but is your relationship based on truth, or is your relationship based on always wanting to trick somebody into doing what you want to do? Because it isn't necessarily about you deceiving them about another person or about somebody. It could be deceit in the fact that you are a manipulator. And if
Mhm,
you observe, sometimes you'll see relationships, and this is men and women. You'll
mhm,
see them being very manipulative just to get their way. Like,
mhm.
am I always going to cry when I get caught having overspent? Like, oh, Taylor, I'm so sorry. Or am I going to be a truthful wife and say, well, I mean, yeah, I did. I spent too much, and this is not going to happen again, or whatever. And that's a very mild version of what you can be deceitful about. But I think that kind of speaks to what that particular element of the relationships goes back to.
Right. Yes, I guess hiding the Amazon boxes might be a little deceptive.
Yeah, I think so.
Number 6 is mutual respect and disrespect, and I know, for my husband, and I think for a lot of men, respect is really high up on his list to not feel disrespected, in any way. So what does Dr. Hudson Weems say about this one?
Yeah, it's a two-way street, is what she usually, what came out in the interview. She was just talking about how it's my job to lift Keith up and to respect him and to make sure everybody else knows that I respect him. And so when I lay that as the foundation, everybody else needs to follow suit, because if I respect him,
Mhm,
doggone for sure, I'm expecting you to respect, and vice versa. Like, men are very protective of their wives because they
mhm.
don't want somebody to say something or do something that they consider to be disrespectful, because there is a consequence of being disrespected, and that comes from things that happened in antiquity. Like, we have been a disrespected people,
Mhm.
and because of that, it's something that she says that can be very sensitive for us as a collective group, both males and females.
And I think it goes back to that the music too that I was talking about, and just those that negative imagery that can be portrayed of Black relationships or Black women in songs and in the media and couples and males even. So, if we're not portrayed in a positive light, I don't support the whatever it is, the music, the movie, because people are going to keep making those types of things if we continue to support them. But we are out of time. And we did have to pre-record because of Tammy's conference. So we'll be in the comments when this comes on. Don't forget to check us out on Tuesday. We'll have the collaborative, and Mr. Fluellen, my former assistant principal, will be joining us. So we're excited about this upcoming episode of the collaborative. That's Tuesday at 7. Please join Principal Kafele next on his platform, and then Josh and Dean on Unlock the Middle at 7. And I know that Principal Hurt was on fire this morning and will be. So if you didn't get to check him out, go back and check him out as well. But thank you all and have a great rest of your Saturday.
Bye, guys. Happy Saturday.